Yo, what is going on, team? This is Art. This is going to be a quick video just on my overall thoughts of the market after this really quick sell-off that we saw today in the tech sector. This is pretty much just me going over how I think we're going to end up seeing this weekend and what I'm going to do in advance just to kind of set up for that. So let's get this thing on the road. Firstly, I want to show you guys TNX. This is the 10-year bond yield. So notice from our high at 17.5, which is, in relation to how it's always been, it's high, but when you look at it historically, it's been higher. So keep that in mind, just like as a little note in the back of your mind. But notice that on our daily chart, year versus date, we are currently sitting in between 9 SMA and 20 SMA. We kind of sold off on the bonds. Going into today, we were down 1.5% for the bonds. However, we saw the market sell off like crazy today. So, what gives? So my main kind of concern seeing that kind of action in the market today is that if bond yields bounce tomorrow, which the historical thing is that when bond yields go up, tech sinks, we're going to end up seeing a huge sell-off going into Friday. And so I'm looking at NQ. This is a daily chart. We have a pretty big H forming here from 13,900 all the way down to where we're at currently at 12,796. And I think that we're going to probably see this thing continue at least to this double bottom. And if we don't bounce the double bottom, this will be a full H confirm. So H pattern, here's our stick, here's our semicircle, and if we break below, we'll probably end up touching the 200-day moving average at 11,887 or somewhere in that general area. And overall, notice how our custom indicator is going from a 0 in the past to a 3, and it's been sitting at 3 and 2, meaning to go short. It's kind of everything's confirming to the downside. And notice on our hourly chart, we have a wide open MACD. We did finish in the oversold for hourly. However, look at a daily chart, and we still have a lot of room to go. We're essentially neutral in terms of RSI. And notice that we are starting to point down on RSI along with the MACD crossing to the downside. If that ends up happening, that is essentially our confirmation to the downside that we'll see the market continue to slide. And so that said, it is kind of a curious play that we have here because of how the market's been acting. And notice like trades like Amazon are all gravitating towards the 200-day moving average on our hourly charts. So notice that if we do fall below this 200-day moving average, when we go, that's at 30.75. If we fall below there, we completely shatter this inverse head shoulder setup. We're currently sitting on 50 SMA support, but we just crossed over in terms of a 4-hour chart to the downside, and we have a 0. I mean, we went from 0 to 3 on our custom indicator, meaning that we are short. So with that in mind, I'm not going to take anything long probably for the rest of the week. Notice that we have our reversal to the downside at 31.28. That was essentially at the end of the day. And since this morning, the market has kind of slid, and it's just continuing to the downside. We have a neutral RSI. We just crossed over on 4-hour. We're pinging a 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Amazon test 3,000 fairly soon, mainly because of that huge tech sell-off that we're having. We have a massive H pattern on the daily, and we're seeing bonds kind of slide, and with the market sliding overall in terms of tech stocks, I'm not a big fan of anything long, really, as of right now. I did take Boeing to the upside this morning, and that was because it did kind of gap up. So let me pull that up really quick for you guys. So I swung from yesterday to today. Today is the 24th of March. And it gapped up, headed up, and couldn't get back above the 200-day moving average. So we did end up falling as the market continued to slide. We have a crossover to the downside, although we are very oversold. We are pinging a 3 to the downside as well. So overall, I would continue to watch BA to the downside. However, I'm not sure how much lower we can see it go. That said, let me also pull up Apple, because Apple is typically pretty conservative when it comes to how it plays. Notice it's been holding this 120 mark for a couple of days now. And so what we're seeing with Apple is that If we can hold on to 120, we'll see a bounce with Apple. However, the break of 120 to the downside, we're going to see tech stocks continue to slide. And notice we have a possible reversal to the downside at 122.68, which is what we ended up seeing today where it slid. So overall, just something to consider is that we are starting to break below. Also, we have shoulder, head, shoulder in terms of an hourly chart. If we fall below 120, we're going to see Apple sink, maybe down to 117, 115 marks. So 117 is kind of that previous low that we used to have, and 116 is the bottom of that huge sell-off that we've been having. So notice we're just falling from this huge H pattern into another, kind of head and shoulder setup, shoulder, head, shoulder. And so if we do end up falling, Apple's going to be one of the top things on my watch list to take to the downside. Also notice on this 4-hour chart, we have a crossover and a very bearish RSI. On top of that, we're pinging a 3 on our custom indicator, which means, again, that you are short. So overall, I am not looking at anything for calls going into tomorrow unless futures drastically change that. Here is Microsoft. Microsoft is on a daily chart. Notice it's trying to cross to the upside. So here's what I want to show you guys. We can't break this 200-day moving average to the downside. If we fall below there, again, Microsoft's probably going to head down to 230 to make this a full head and shoulders pattern. And we are currently in the into the bearish side of RSI, and our 3 is being pinged on our custom indicator. So overall, I mean, this is not a lot of setups to the upside. So there's going to be a lot of put plays that we'll be taking and looking at going into tomorrow. So let me pull up Netflix. So here's Netflix. Again, same kind of head and shoulders pattern starting to form on the hourly chart. Notice that our MACD is crossed to the downside, and we have a very bearish RSI on top of a 3 on our custom indicator. So overall, I wouldn't consider Netflix for long whatsoever. I don't think that there's really any chance for this thing to really recover too much yet. So let me really quickly put in my custom indicator just so I can apply that here and see if we get any pings. So we have a pinged reversal to the downside at 538, and we haven't pinged upside since then. So my guess would be that we retake this 200 SMA, we bounce, or we fall below. We fall below, we retest 500. That's just the general kind of consensus with that. Let me pull up a QQQ chart. I actually shorted QQQ going into today. I took in a nice little 10% profit on that position. And pretty much what I had saw was that we were not getting back above the 200-day moving average. And so notice we had this big wicked candle, but we never got back above. And so that was my sign to take a position to the downside. We are a little oversold on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we continued heading lower. We are paying a 3. Overall, I'm very bearish on QQQ, mainly because of, again, that bond yield isn't up, but tech is sliding. And then you look at like more defensive stuff. So let me pull up like Costco. Costco is chilling out completely right now. It bounced off the 200-day moving average, but it held on to the 9. We're trying to cross to the downside. It was kind of overbought, but we are still pinging a 0 on a 4-hour chart. So overall, Costco is pretty strong. Let me also pull up a few financials. So here's JP Morgan. JP Morgan did slide quite a bit, but it is bouncing currently in after hours. So I wouldn't be surprised if JP Morgan either remained the same or turns this into an inverse head and shoulders, and we see it kind of rip tomorrow back up to 200-day moving average, depending on if we see tech slide and money move into financial stocks. So here, let me also pull up something like Goldman Sachs. Goldman also kind of sold off down almost 1 point. And so pretty much what we're seeing here is, again, that here's that shoulder, the head is starting to form, and we'll probably see the other shoulder going into tomorrow. On top of that, I just want to pull up a few more just kind of other stocks that I like playing. So here's Riot. Here's Riot, and I'll pull up QS, that's QuantumScape. And I'll also pull up, I believe people have been asking me for AI. Or is it C3.AI? It's just AI. Okay, so firstly, we have Riot. Riot has been absolutely getting slammed recently, and they have their earnings today. So I know a few people who are trying to play off of earnings. I personally do not like playing earnings because they are kind of just a shot in the dark. But notice right here that Riot is down 8%. It's currently It's currently in the oversold, and it's been banging that oversold, but it hasn't been able to cross back to the upside. So I am completely bearish on Riot. Here's QuantumScape. I actually sold my position almost at the exact top, my call position in my swings. And so I sold it up here right before we started seeing this head and shoulders. And then they did a stock offering, which is what dumped them into after hours down like $7. And then today they were kind of playing off of this H pattern that we had previously seen. It fell below 200 SMA and it dumped. I wish I saw this earlier because this is such a free play. It's currently very oversold, and I wouldn't be playing this thing to the upside whatsoever. And lastly, I just have AI. AI is also extremely oversold, down 8%, and this thing has been extremely beat up. Every time I do a live stream, people ask me about this stock in particular. It's been ripping downwards ever since 166. So overall, I'm bearish as hell on this thing. There's no sign saying this thing's going to kind of reverse back to the upside. Everything is oversold. I wouldn't be remotely considering this thing to the upside as of right now, of course. And then actually, I want to do one more stock really quick for you guys. Here's ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil is trying to start rounding out a bottom here. We have our double bottom here at 55. And so ideally, I would like to see this thing kind of run back up to 59, but otherwise, I'm not going to be taking a position in ExxonMobil. And that kind of concludes today's watch list and little market thoughts going into the rest of this week, ending on March 26th. I appreciate you guys all for watching, as always, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to leave suggestions. I'm always listening for those, and I will see y'all then. Peace.